Hi, my name is Sophia Harris. I'm 35 years old, and my life completely changed after what I'm about to share with you. This is not something I ever thought I'd experience or even talk about, but it's too important to keep to myself. I had a near-death experience, and it was unlike anything I could have imagined. I'm here to tell you what happened to me, in my own words. Before I tell you in detail, please tell me in the comments where you are watching it from. Also, if you like it, please subscribe to the channel. It all started on a day that seemed perfectly normal. I wasn't sick. I wasn't expecting anything extraordinary to happen, but life has a way of surprising us. Before I knew it, I found myself in a situation where I was physically dying. It's strange because I can't fully explain how it felt. One moment, I was in my body, and the next, I wasn't. I was completely aware, but it was as if I had been gently pulled out of myself. There was no pain, no fear, just an overwhelming sense of peace. I could see my own body lying there. At first, it was unsettling. I knew it was me, but I felt no attachment to it anymore. Instead, I felt like I was being drawn towards something far greater. It's like the air around me shifted, and suddenly, I wasn't in the world I knew anymore. I was in a place that was timeless. That's the best word I can use to describe it. There was no clock ticking, no sense of before or after. It was as if all of time, past, present, and future, existed at once. And then I saw him, Jesus. There are no words in any language that can fully capture what it was like to see him. It wasn't just that I saw him, I felt him. His presence was overwhelming, but not in a way that scared me. It was pure love, pure light, pure truth. Every question I ever had about life, about my purpose, about God, it was all answered in an instant, just by being in his presence. Jesus didn't speak to me with words, at least not in the way we're used to hearing words. Instead, he communicated directly to my spirit. It was as if his thoughts became my thoughts. He showed me things, my life, the choices I had made, the moments that mattered the most. And it wasn't just about me. He let me see the world from his perspective. I saw how much he loves every single person, even those who reject him or don't believe in him. His love is endless and unconditional. I also felt this incredible sense of urgency. Jesus showed me that time, as we know it, is running out. Not in a frightening way, but in a way that reminded me of how important it is to live with purpose. He wasn't angry or condemning. He was kind and full of grace. But he made it clear that we all have a role to play in his bigger plan, and it's time for us to wake up to that. As I stood there in his presence, I realized something profound. My life on earth had been so focused on things that didn't truly matter. I worried about my job, my appearance, my plans for the future. But none of that compared to the overwhelming joy and peace of being with him. The moment felt eternal, but eventually I was told it wasn't my time to stay. I needed to go back. I didn't want to leave. I mean, who would? But Jesus reassured me that there was still work for me to do, and that he would be with me every step of the way. And just like that, I was back in my body. The peace I had felt in his presence lingered, but so did the weight of the message he had given me. I knew I couldn't go back to living the way I had before. My life had to change, and I had to share this with others. This experience was a gift, a wake-up call that reminded me of what really matters. And if you're hearing this, I hope it's a wake-up call for you too. Jesus is real, his love is real, and he's calling all of us to live with purpose and intention before it's too late. When I was in his presence, Jesus showed me something that broke my heart, something I'll never forget. He let me see the world the way he sees it, and I need to tell you about it. It wasn't just about me or my life. It was about all of us. Humanity as a whole has lost its way, and it's so much deeper than what we realize. Jesus revealed the spiritual state of the world, and it's not what we think it is. On the surface, everything seems normal. People go to work, raise families, chase dreams, and live their lives. But beneath all of that, there's this constant distraction. We've become so caught up in things that don't truly matter, things like social media, material possessions, money, and success. It's not that these things are inherently bad, but they've taken over our hearts. We've become so busy with the noise of life that we've drowned out the voice of God. I saw how so many of us are searching for meaning, but we're looking in all the wrong places. We chase happiness in things that can't give it to us. We buy more stuff, work longer hours, or scroll endlessly through our phones, hoping to feel fulfilled. But Jesus showed me that none of those things can fill the void in our hearts. That void was made for Him, and only His love can satisfy it. He also showed me how we've drifted from our true purpose. We were created to love, to serve, to be a light in this world. But instead, we've become consumed by selfishness and pride. We're so focused on what we want that we've forgotten why we're here. And it's not just individuals, it's the world as a whole. Entire systems and cultures are built around greed, power, and control. But the most heartbreaking thing He showed me was how this drift affects our daily lives. Families are breaking apart. People are lonely, even when they're surrounded by others. There's so much pain, so much hopelessness, and it doesn't have to be this way. Jesus didn't show me this to make me feel hopeless. He showed me because He wants us to wake up. There's still time to turn back to Him, to realign our hearts with His purpose. We can't let the distractions of this world pull us away from what truly matters. The time is now. When Jesus spoke to me about the church, it was both sobering and hopeful. He wasn't angry or condemning, but His words carried a deep sadness, like a parent watching their child struggle when they were meant to thrive. He showed me the state of the church today, and I realized how far we've drifted from what He intended. The first thing He revealed was the division within the church. We're supposed to be one body, united in love and purpose, but instead, we've splintered into countless denominations and factions. We argue over theology, styles of worship, or who's right and who's wrong. Instead of building each other up, we tear each other down. Jesus made it clear, this is not what He wanted for His church. He never desired division. He desired unity, a family working together to reflect His love to the world. Then He showed me something even more painful, the routine without passion. So many of us go to church out of habit. We sing the songs, listen to the sermons, and go through the motions, but our hearts aren't in it. It's like we're physically present but spiritually absent. Jesus showed me how this lack of passion is holding us back. The church is meant to be alive, on fire with His Spirit, but instead it feels lukewarm. He longs for us to return to our first love, to worship Him not out of obligation, but out of joy and gratitude. He also pointed out how distant our hearts have become. Even in the church, we often put on a show, pretending to have it all together, when deep down, we're struggling. Jesus wants His church to be a place of authenticity, a place where people can be vulnerable and find healing. But too often it's become a place of judgment or superficiality. But here's the hopeful part. Jesus hasn't given up on His church. He showed me His vision, a church that is a transformative force in the world, a place where love overflows, where people serve one another selflessly, and where His Spirit moves powerfully. He wants us to rise up, to step out of routine and into purpose. This is our wake-up call. Jesus is calling His church to unite, to love deeply, and to be the light in a dark world. It's not too late to become the church He always intended us to be. When Jesus showed me the signs of his return, it felt like I was watching a story unfold, one that was both heartbreaking and filled with hope. He allowed me to see the world groaning in pain, struggling under the weight of its own chaos. But even in the darkness, there was a flicker of light, a promise of something greater to come. The first thing I saw was the earth itself reacting, almost as if it were alive. Natural disasters, earthquakes, storms, fires, were happening more frequently and with greater intensity. It was as if creation was crying out, longing for the day when everything would be restored. These weren't just random events. They were signs, reminders, that the world as we know it is temporary and in need of redemption. Then he showed me the conflict among people. Division and hatred were everywhere, between nations, within communities, even among families. Wars and rumors of wars, he said, would be a sign. But it wasn't just about physical battles. There was also a spiritual battle raging beneath the surface. Darkness was trying to take hold, but Jesus reassured me that it could never overcome the light. In the midst of all this chaos, though, something incredible was happening. There was a spiritual awakening. People were starting to ask deeper questions about life and eternity. Those who had been distracted by material things or trapped in cycles of despair were beginning to look up, seeking something more. It was as if their souls could sense that time was running out and that they needed to prepare for something monumental. And then Jesus showed me the hope, the moment when his return would draw near. It wasn't scary or overwhelming, it was beautiful. Like a sunrise breaking through the darkest night, his presence would bring light and life to a weary world. But he emphasized one thing: we need to be ready. His return isn't just about watching the signs, it's about preparing our hearts. It's about living with purpose, showing love, and staying close to him. These signs aren't meant to scare us, but to wake us up. They're reminders that time is precious and that we're called to live with eternal perspective. Jesus is coming back, and when he does, it will change everything. Until then, we're called to stay awake, stay hopeful, and keep our eyes on him. When Jesus revealed the spiritual awakening happening in the world, it felt like watching the earth shake off a heavy blanket that had been weighing it down for far too long. He showed me a process, what he called a sifting. It was like a refining fire, separating what was genuine from what was false, both within the church and in the world at large. In the church, it started with uncovering what had been hidden. Some people had been going through the motions, showing up, singing songs, and doing good works, but their hearts were distant. Jesus didn't show this to condemn anyone, but to call them closer. He said the time was coming when everything that was done for appearances would be exposed, and only what was rooted in true faith would remain. It was a wake-up call, a chance for the church to return to its first love, him. But the sifting wasn't just about the church. It was happening everywhere. In the world, he showed me how the pressures of life were bringing out what was in people's hearts. For some, it exposed bitterness or selfishness, but for others, it awakened a deep hunger for truth. People were starting to see that the things they had relied on, money, success, even relationships, couldn't fill the emptiness inside. And in that realization, many were turning to God, some for the very first time. What struck me most was how personal this transformation was. Jesus didn't show me systems or structures changing. He showed me hearts. It began with individuals recognizing their need for him. I saw people humbling themselves, admitting their brokenness, and asking for forgiveness. There was no shame in it, just freedom. Repentance, he said, isn't about punishment, it's about coming home. And as people were transformed, their lives began to radiate purpose. They weren't just going through life anymore. They were living it fully, with joy and meaning. They were reaching out to others, sharing love and hope in ways that were simple yet powerful. This awakening isn't something far off in the future. It's happening now. Jesus is stirring hearts, calling us to let go of what's false and cling to what's real. He's inviting us to step into the life we were always meant to live, one of humility, love, and purpose. All we have to do is say yes. When Jesus showed me the role of technology in what's happening across the world, it was like seeing a double-edged sword. On one hand, it's a tool being used to spread deception, confusion, and distraction. On the other, it's a powerful means for bringing hope and light into places that have never been reached before. He showed me how technology, in its misuse, has drawn so many people away from truth. It's almost like a web that entangles us, feeding us endless streams of information, entertainment, and noise. People spend hours scrolling, comparing their lives to others, and feeling emptier as a result. Lies are spreading faster than ever, half-truths that sound good, but lead people away from what's real. Technology has made it easier for fear, division, and temptation to take root in hearts. But then Jesus showed me the other side, the redemption of technology. It was like watching a battlefield where light was breaking through the darkness. There are people, he called them kingdom-minded innovators, who are using technology to spread his message and bring hope. I saw videos, apps, and messages that weren't just clever or popular. They were filled with love, truth, and life. He showed me how technology is being used to connect people in ways that were once impossible. In countries where faith is silenced, people are finding encouragement and truth online. In isolated places, someone's phone or computer becomes a lifeline, a way to hear about Jesus for the first time. What amazed me most was the creativity of it all. These kingdom-minded people aren't just copying what the world is doing. They're finding new ways to reach hearts. They're creating tools to help others grow in faith, platforms for prayer and community, and ways to share stories that inspire hope. Jesus reminded me that technology isn't good or evil on its own. It's how we use it that matters, and He's calling us to be intentional. Instead of letting it control us, we can use it for His purposes. We can choose to fill the digital space with kindness, encouragement, and truth. The awakening isn't just happening in churches or quiet moments of prayer. It's happening online, in videos, posts, and even conversations in the comments section. Technology is a tool, and when we use it with love and purpose, it becomes a way to spread His light to the ends of the earth. When Jesus showed me the spiritual battle happening all around us, it wasn't like the dramatic wars we see in movies. It was quieter, subtler, but so much more powerful. It's a battle for our hearts and minds, and the battlefield is woven into our daily lives, our choices, thoughts, and even the things we let influence us. I saw how the enemy works, not by forcing us into destruction outright, but by nudging us ever so slightly off course. It's in the distractions, the endless busyness, the temptations that seem harmless at first. It's in the constant pressure to fit in, to chase success, or to find worth in things that will never truly satisfy. Over time, these little choices add up, and before we know it, we're far from the path God intended for us. But then Jesus reminded me of something powerful: free will. He has given us the incredible gift of choice. We're not pawns in this battle. We have the ability to decide whom we'll follow and how we'll live. Every choice we make, no matter how small it seems, carries weight in this spiritual battle. Jesus showed me how society plays a role too. The world is filled with influences that try to shape us. Media, culture, peer pressure. Some of these influences can draw us closer to God, but many subtly pull us away. It's like a slow drift, and if we're not careful, we might not even notice it happening. That's why staying anchored in Him, is so important. What struck me deeply was the eternal consequences of these choices. Every decision, whether to forgive or hold a grudge, to speak truth or stay silent, to pursue love or selfishness, it all matters. Jesus showed me how these decisions shape not only our lives here, but also our eternity. He didn't show me this to scare me, but to wake me up, to help me see how much our lives truly matter. He also reminded me that we're not alone in this battle. The Holy Spirit is there to guide us, strengthen us, and help us make the right choices. When we feel overwhelmed by the weight of the world or the subtle lies of the enemy, we can call on Him. We have His Word, His presence, and His love to keep us grounded and to give us clarity. But there's also responsibility. Free will means we can't blame others or even the enemy for the paths we choose. We have the power to turn away from distractions and toward Him. And the incredible thing is, every time we choose Him, every time we say yes to love, kindness, and truth, we push back the darkness in the world. This battle isn't about perfection. It's about persistence. It's about choosing God, one step at a time, one day at a time. And every choice we make to stand in faith and love brings us closer to Him and strengthens the light in this world. When Jesus spoke to me about His return, it wasn't with a sense of fear or drama. It wasn't the kind of grand spectacle we sometimes imagine. Flashes of lightning, booming thunder, or angels descending from the sky. No, His return will be a moment of undeniable truth, a moment that leaves no room for doubt. It will be a time when every single person will know, without question, who He is. There will be no more guessing, no more wondering. When He returns, everything will be made clear. I saw how His return will come not just with a wave of power, but with pure love. Jesus' heart is full of love for every soul. He's not returning to judge out of anger, but to redeem, to restore, and to purify. He showed me that His return will be a time of purification for both believers and non-believers. For those who have believed in Him, it will be a time of ultimate completion, where our faith is fully realized and we are transformed into the likeness of His glory. But for those who have not chosen Him, it will be a time of reckoning, an opportunity to see the truth and hopefully to turn to Him before it's too late. I was deeply moved by how He spoke of this time as a moment of grace, not condemnation. Even though there will be judgment, it's not the kind of judgment that feels harsh or angry. It's the kind of judgment that is meant to open eyes, to bring people back to their Creator, to show them that there's still time to choose redemption. It's a purification that reveals what's been hidden in the hearts of all people. But Jesus also reminded me that His return isn't just a future event. It's something that we prepare for every single day. The call He has for us is one of radical obedience, living in a way that honors Him, no matter what the world says. It's a call to prepare ourselves, not just by looking for signs or waiting passively, but by living with purpose, walking in the light of His love, and choosing to live as His hands and feet here and now. As He spoke to me about this final hope, He emphasized the importance of trust. Trust in His love, trust in His plan, and trust that He's in control. When everything around us seems uncertain or chaotic, we can hold on to the hope that He is coming back, and when He does, everything will be made right. We won't have to fight for what's right or struggle to find purpose, because He will make everything new. All pain, suffering, and confusion will be gone, and we will finally know the fullness of His love and purpose for our lives. My message to you, the one He gave me to share, is this: be prepared. Live with intention, knowing that each moment is a gift. Each choice is an opportunity to reflect His love. Be radically obedient to Him. trusting that no matter how dark things may seem, He will return to bring final hope and ultimate restoration. Our preparation isn't about perfection, it's about faith, it's about trust, and it's about holding on to the truth that God's love will prevail. And in that love, there is peace, there is hope, and there is redemption.